Shana Tova, everyone. What a difference a year makes. Every year, I try to acknowledge how different it must feel to sit in Hillel as opposed to your seats in your home synagogue. This year, a year with so few of us sitting in our home synagogues, I feel that there's so much more for us to acknowledge about what is different this year. Last year, we were in person. Last year, we gathered more than 10 people in a room. Last year, we didn't check our temperatures every day. Last year, as I wrote this sermon, I was inspired by the stack of barely started journals sitting on the second bedside table in my bedroom. This year, that stack of books has been replaced, and I now see the lamp, charger, and glasses of my wife Or. What a difference a year makes. There is something about this new beginning each year that gives us permission to reflect on who we want to be in the coming year. When I think about the theme of tshuva for the high holidays, I usually translate it to mean change or transformation or a returning to ourselves. I often encourage all of you and myself to find those moments during the holiday to be able to be still, to hear that still small voice within, and consider what changes we want to make this year, who we want to be, what we want to become. But again, this year feels so different. I find myself more distracted by the world around me, the global pandemic, the social unrest, the protests, the burning earth. I find myself drawn to a different kind of tshuva this year. Tshuva less as a returning to myself, but rather a more modern Hebrew translation of tshuva, as a response or an answer. I feel the world is changing. The context through which I'm experiencing Rosh Hashanah this year has changed. I feel as if with this new backdrop of living in a global pandemic, the universe is posing a question to all of us, and I feel charged to use this time to ask myself, how will I respond? In the month of Elul leading up to the high holidays, we are repeatedly faced with this question of how we are able to respond to the world around us. Repeated throughout the Torah portions of the month, we're told to see the blessings and the curses around us. The month begins with the Torah telling us, look, I put before you this day a blessing and a curse. And it ends again in last week's Parsha with, I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day. I have put before you life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life. In every moment around us, we are surrounded by blessings and curses, life and death. Rabbi Alan Liu writes about this repeated reminder in the month of Elul. He writes, look, pay attention to your life. Every moment is profoundly mixed. Every moment contains a blessing and a curse. Everything depends on our seeing our lives with clear eyes, seeing the potential blessing in each moment, as well as the potential curse, choosing the former, forswearing the latter. For myself personally, I have felt this dynamic relationship between blessings and curses every time I had to navigate some kind of new normal within this pandemic. I would see them as two sides of the same coin. The inability to travel became the blessing to focus on being at home and my relationship. The abrupt end of Shabbat dinners at Hillel became the opportunity to create new Shabbat traditions to keep on a weekly basis. The loss of trips home to Toronto to stock up on Greif's bagels and put them in my freezer turned into a desperate attempt to make homemade bagels, which I'm happy to say after a first disastrous attempt are actually way better than what I can buy in Toronto. We all have our own examples of adapting in this moment. We're holding what we're missing with something that we gained. Or and I experienced the greatest joy of our lives by getting married this summer, while holding the sadness of the reality that none of our family could be present with us to celebrate. We are holding it all. We are all holding so much right now. Early on, I quickly felt the loss of something simple, my 8-minute drive home. This simple loss meant that I had no way to mark the end of my workday, to just stop. I lost that sense of separation between work and home when my home became my office, like so many of you. So rather than get in the car and drive home at the end of the day for the first few months of this time of isolation, Ora and I would just go for a walk at the end of the day. We'd leave our workday behind, and when we came back, it was like we were walking into our home for dinner, not our place of work. After about a month of walking every day, Ora and I realized that we were watching spring come to Ann Arbor, something that neither of us had ever really paused to see before. We noted that we had never heard so many birds before, and we wondered whether it was a sign of spring, or because there were so few cars on the road, or whether we had just been listening for them for the first time. Rather than feeling limited by the isolation we were in or feeling like we were trapped by seeing the same walls every day, we saw the world around us completely differently. We saw the blessings all around us in simple beauty, the time we had together, the spring blossoming in Ann Arbor, chatting with neighbors that we had barely seen before about the grass coming in where they had seeded just a few weeks before, exchanging treats from new recipes with our friends up the street. We were very aware of the impact of this pandemic and the social unrest that was unraveling all around us. We felt the sadness and the concern and deeply felt the injustice. We missed family and friends, students, and community. But we were also opened to all of these blessings that this time offered to us that we didn't have or at least didn't see before. That is what I believe this focus on blessings and curses in Elul is suggesting that we prepare ourselves for leading up to the high holidays. It is saying to us, look at the blessings and curses all around you. Take the time to see them and to feel them. Stop with the busyness of the rest of your year and really look. Even if you are confined to your dorm room or apartment this holiday, look around you. What brings you joy? What picture do you have on your wall that makes you happy? What sweatshirt makes you feel cozy? What color makes you radiate? What voice do you hear on the phone that makes you smile? What are the blessings around campus, in the Arb, along the Huron River, that are just waiting for you to notice them, for you to look and see them? Taking in all of the blessings does not mean shutting yourself off from the curses. All the more so, we need to keep ourselves open to be aware of the curses. Allow yourself to see them and not avoid them or excuse them. What injustice are you seeing in the world today? What is the pain and suffering around you that this time is bringing? Who is hurting? What are your own losses and sadness that you are feeling? And then, once we look and see and feel, we have the opportunity to respond. When the Torah tells us, when we are faced with blessings and curses, choose life. When Rabbi Alan Liu tells us to choose the blessing and forswear the curse, he's saying we have a choice. I believe our choice is our power to choose our response, to choose our tshuva. Rabbi Shefa Gold writes about tshuva as a response. She writes, when I walk outside and I look up at the sky, I can open myself up to receive its blue as a gift or as a letter that is addressed to me. Its beauty calls forth a response, gratefulness, praise, wonder. Something in me rises to meet that presence which calls to me through the purity of blue. She continues to write about the curses. And when I encounter suffering in the world, I can let its mystery address me, calling forth compassion from my own depths. Response is an art form, she writes, that requires opening, listening, and knowing oneself and one's reactions. I believe blessings and curses and our choices are connected because we cannot go through the world seeing one without the other. We cannot go through the world with blinders on to the suffering around us, but even more so, I believe that it is only through filling ourselves up with the blessings around us that we fill ourselves with the strength and resilience and compassion to be able to truly see and respond to the curses in this world. We donate in response to tragedies because we feel blessed by the abundance of what we have. We push ourselves to be uncomfortable because we know that our own discomfort is nothing in comparison to the suffering of others. I could not have shown up to a Black Lives Matter protest this summer if I didn't feel my own sense of gratitude for what I have and my deep commitment and responsibility to others in this moment. We respond to suffering with compassion and a desire for change if we feel filled with gratitude and appreciation and a longing for a world of blessings for everyone. Each blessing and each curse calls for us to choose a response. Even if we don't respond, that ignoring, that inaction in response to suffering or dismissing a blessing is itself a choice to not respond. Friends, this is hard work. It is hard to look at a blessing in the midst of crisis and feel its power to fill us with strength. And it is hard to force ourselves to keep seeing injustice and suffering in the world around us. It may be difficult, but it is on us to make the choice of how we will respond. That is where the choice comes in. We are not powerless in this moment. We are all empowered to choose how we respond to the blessings and the curses all around us. That response, our tshuva, is what defines us. Responding is choosing life. Now, the good news, my friends, is that there is no limit to the blessings around us. Just as there is no limit to how much we can see, smell, touch, and hear, so too is there no limit to the blessings we can take in. My friend Esther told me a story last week that when she was young, she would ration the smelling of the etrog, that little yellow fruit of Sukkot, because as a child, she was worried that she was going to take away all of its smell at once. Now we all know the etrog doesn't lose its smell. What we lose is our ability to respond to the etrog with the same sense of wonder and joy that Esther did as a child. By filling ourselves with gratitude and awe and appreciation for the blessings, I believe we are filling our hearts so that we can look at the curses, see them fully as they are, and respond with compassion and empathy towards those who are suffering. The Torah says, I put before you life and death, blessing and a curse. Choose life. This is not about choosing to experience one over the other. That is not the choice. We have no choice but to experience it all. The choice you are being offered, the question the universe is posing to you right now, is how will you respond so that you may choose the fullest life. What I wish for you this holiday is the time and space to ask yourself that question. How will you respond? What will be your tshuva this year? Write down your response. Revisit it next year. Send me a note and tell me what you decided. Make your responding a conscious act. I wish for you a year ahead filled with blessings. Shana Tova.